Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to now what is the complete halfway mark of this series already, I believe, at Monza for round 5 at Monza for a 90-minute race, which is a more unusual format for this season. We've only got two 90-minute rounds, including today's at Monza and Lodge for Life being the ultimate race later on in the season, as we are already on board. As there has been a bit of a change here in terms of today's layout. We do actually see it is going to be a merged layout, so we do see it's going to be both AMs in the same server at the time being. To already just now wait until the first people who actually start their first flying laps or so. We are starting to see there is already a huge improvement from the first and second time of a 147.240 by Grains there in the McLaren 720S 230, and then Mercier behind him with a 1.3 second gap already. Then we do see Cisco actually starting to decrease that gap between them both there with a 148.4, so it is starting to decrease between the leader and P2 already. We do see it is going to be a split qualifying as well, 10 minutes for the silvers, which is going to be intermediate Bs, and then we do have intermediate As, which are going to be the numbers in white for tonight. It is going to be obviously a mandatory pit stop as usual, but only for fuel with no fixed fuel time here for today's race, which is something that's a bit different compared to what we have seen throughout the series, but it is going to make it a bit more interesting if you do take tries. It is quite, well, relatively hot track at the moment, 32 degrees. It might change going into the race conditions. It might go into the next day in game time, or it might stay just completely after qualifying. So that is all something to take into consideration, because if it's even this hot or even hotter, I'm not sure how viable it actually is to stay on those slick tires for an entire 90 minutes. They can last the 90 minutes, bear in mind, but you just need to try and take into consideration with it. Do you see a few people in chat already? It does seem someone Hunter said this quite a while ago, but Ramirez, I believe that's how you said it. So another supporter there for them. And then Daniel Trambaglio car we do see quite frequently in the intermediate A stream, so supporting Daniel Trambaglio there. And then we do see I believe it's the Odyssey League or the OLR lads is open. Oh no, open lobby racing, I assume. So I got that wrong there, sorry, but I eventually got it there. As we do see in terms of time, there has been an update. We do see it's now 147.0 by the McLaren 720S of Grands, who's now in pole position with that 147.0. Then it's going to be followed by Spencer so far, as there's only about 3 minutes left of qualifying for the first split now with a 148.0, and it's going to be Zimperi with a 148.3. so I'll be honest, not sure if this car should be in this split, to be honest. He does seem to be quite quick compared to the rest of the drivers in the field, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is in that. And I do see there is going to be two people that might be given penalties here for today, as we do see it's going to be Ralph and Lou, unfortunately, who isn't going to be in this split. Now as he actually spins off going into a Scarron, that's a huge impact with the wall. That just seemed to get a bit unlucky there, but that is going to be a penalty, I believe, for him, as wrong as Ray's at the moment as well. I'm assuming that they weren't aware of the new qualifying format. It's going down as well. We do see now that's going to be Bugio, I believe is how you say it. Now in P13, actually the one who was improving the most, but going through the second chicane there. And now into Lesmo 1 and 2 is losing, unfortunately, all of his time. And now actually half a second down. It just tells you the smallest mistake you can achieve is actually going to lose you so much time there. So we have to see him letting by a few cars that are now going to be faster than him and are on for a faster lap time, as we do see one of them being Dan. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem his livery sunk. It does seem everyone else has, though, so it's not going to be something on my end for once. But now going through back straight before going through Parabolica. it's going to be up. He can potentially improve quite a few places if he's able to maintain his game through Parabolica. It does seem he's actually going to be able to increase the gap in his delta there now coming through the start-finish straight. Now 2.5 tenths up on his best lap time, puts him up into P6 there with 148.427. Now nearly putting him up in the boundaries of the top 5, just less than about 5,000 for the second, well not 500 for the second there. As we do see there's already a freeway incident that seems going into the chicane. 1.5 minutes left so far for the first split of qualifying. As well as now we do see Bartolucci, I believe is how you say it. There's going to be a lot of people I don't recognise in this split, mainly because of obviously the two splits have merged. So I'm used to some of the intermediate A names, well actually all of the intermediate A names in today's lobby that are currently still in pits, getting ready to start doing their qualification in the next 42 seconds. So we will start seeing them heading out, potentially being able to overtake some of the silver drivers. I'll refer to them as for tonight. At the moment, I'm not too sure. It does seem like it's going to be one of the BMWs. I forgot his name. I think it was Luca. Just going off there, but this is going to be now the other Luca. No, this is the Luca. I'm not sure who that actually was there. But this is going to be Luca going across the line now to see if he can improve. Yes, he can. But huge improvement there from him, going up into P11 with a 148.887. Placing him up into P11 there, nearly into the top 10, but not quite close enough. But was still improving quite significantly, but backs out there because he will not have enough time to do another lap. We now do see there's 2 disqualifications there, as that is what we will see because of them being able to set times during the, well, they're not assigned qualifying times. As we do see that it's going to already be Tarrant taking the runoff area going into the first chicane, which is filling me with hope for turn 1, to say the least. Just trying to warm up his tyres there. This could be quite a common occurrence for qualifying and the race as well. Hand. As well as this now we do see, does seem the only other car that is still improving who shouldn't really be out on track either. Now it's going to be Stefan in the, is it the Paler Competition Esport Cup? He shouldn't be out because he's been a bit naughty here, to be honest. He's just gone over a minute over and he's only just done Curva Grande a second ago. So he has, I'm probably certain James is watching this, but I'm sure that will probably be taken action of, as well as what we did just see, unfortunately, with the 2 drivers at the bottom of the grid there. As you can see, the 2 DSQs. I'm not sure what happens after that. I'm not sure if they get the DSQ for the entire both race and qualification, or if it's just to eliminate their times and make them start at the back of the field, which seems like a fair penalty to say the least now. But we do see them all just starting to weave, getting ready to go on for the first flying laps here. A few of them already going into Parabolica, as we can see on the track map. Moment, so just gonna have to stay with it. Stay on board with Matthew Reynolds to see what he's able to do in that OLR livery. Going into start finish straight now, going into turn 1. This is going to be a corner that is absolutely crucial to get the brakes at the right time, because you can easily overrun it, as we almost did see the 992 behind him doing, as he does go over all of that sausage apex that you should not be taking in any car at Monza, in ACC, or any actual game. And that is going to lose him a lot of time there, as we can see the other 992 of Mark GG actually being able to catch up. Now re-overtaking the position there, and we don't see anyone's actually improving just yet, which is filling me with confidence, but that might change as well, as we do see Stefan was also given his assigned penalty there of the disqualification. So I'm assuming James is watching. No pressure for me. But we do see all of them are still out on track. There is a significant difference in how many silvers there are compared to, well, silvers to pros in the server, but obviously the silvers being intermediate A, well, intermediate B, sorry, and then the pros being classed as intermediate A. So it's all something to just try and get your head around. And I'm not sure if this is going to be just for the 90-minute rounds or if it's going to be like this for the entire of the rest of the season. Now, as we do see it now, Matthew Reynolds now going through. Ascari being able to take it quite nicely there. Obviously, he's not going to have the greatest of times after he did great the turn 1 sausage curb. But now going to see who does set the fastest lap times for the first laps. Flying lap number 1, Jamie Edwards putting himself up into P4 with a 148.255 there in the number 6. The Enzo Ferrari 296, the only other car being able to improve so far. He's only down at P12. Is going to be Tarrant putting himself down in P14, constantly changing that. Now with a 148.692, that has changed once again. Poulin being able to go into P7 with 148.3. So now it's going to be Reddick Wicks in, well, P1 in class with a 47.9. So only 2 47s we see here today. It does seem Granez might actually be quite a fast driver, to say the least, because of 47. Wow, I've only just realised what time he's actually done. 47.052, nearly getting into the boundaries of the 46s. We might be able to see some of the intermediate A drivers being able to do the same thing, potentially, unless he is not supposed to be in here, but I'm not too sure just yet. It might be. He should be in the A split instead of the B split, but I'm not too sure just yet. That is also not my decision and not really my business either. But we'll keep it at that. But Tarrant now going through Ascari, currently P17, but looking to improve significantly with 5, nearly 6 tenths to his name. Now going into the straight before Parabolica. You see there's a yellow flag there, which isn't fulfilling me with confidence as well. We do see it. It is bordering off the pit lane, and I did think I saw one going into Ascari as well. We do see now going through Parabolica. This could be Tarrant being able to improve, still 6 tenths up on his pit best lap time, going through the start finish straight now to cross the line to try take a better position. He goes up into P5 there with a 148.1, so not being able to breach into those 47s just yet. Only 2 drivers who have still been able to do that. It does seem the Bs and the As at the moment are quite spread in with each other in terms of the leaderboard lap times, which is actually going to cause quite good racing here tonight, as in terms of the average lap time, it seems pretty much everyone is doing this, well, the same lap times, and that's kind of what you expect at Monza and probably Spa as well as track. So you do see quite a few people being able to do the same lap times, or relatively similar lap times, shall I say, not the same identical lap times. But it does seem most people being in the 48s and 49s. And we do have a few of the outstanders who are in the 50s and the 47s. And we do see that it is going to be Daniel Trambaglio actually being able to improve, but he's still 5 tenths off the leader there of Granes, with a 5.5 tenths gap between him and P2 or P1 of a 147.5, sorry. Well, it is now a top 3 for the top pro drivers, you could call them, with the 373 McLaren 720S of Daniel Trambaglio taking pole position in class 4A, followed then by Poulian with a 147.8 in that 592 Ferrari 296. So then Radix Witz in the 23 Ferrari 296 with 147.977, so just barely breaching in to those 47s, but wasn't able to do it. As we also do see that's going to be Jean Weiser now going through Ascari for potentially one of the last times of qualifying. It is still up on just personal best lap time by a 10.5 or so, but it does seem eclipse. The gravelette goes spinning, managing to hold his brakes, as you can see. And that is him probably going to have dead tyres for the rest of qualifying here. He might be lucky if he's able to do another lap. But definitely, the quality of his tyres is going to be significantly less before what he did just do. Hasn't been any sort of update in terms of the top 3 so far. They are still quite far apart, actually. It seems the top 4 or so are quite far apart of each other, but then the midfield seem to be extremely close with each other. 38 drivers here for tonight, which is great to see. Hopefully it does make it interesting for the entire 90 minutes, and hopefully we do see it throughout. Some good battles. So we do see that is going to be another change in position, as we do see that is going to be Tommy Griffiths, and in the team WRT BMW M4 GT3 placing himself into the top 5 with 148.087, so barely off those 47, so that could have been the 5th driver to be able to set a 47, but it isn't going to be able to. He still has one lap to be able to do it. So as we do see Mark GG actually improving nearly 5 tenths up to his name going through the backstreet before Ascari. Does seem unfortunately just clipping the apex there and the inside. Unfortunately, he's just got to send his car into oblivion there, but he's able to save it, and that is going to be the end of qualifying for him. Unfortunately there, but we do see actually Daniel Trambaglio is improving. It's very fractional how much he is improving, but can potentially make a difference. Not really. As well as we do see Jamie Edwards and Jean also improving with about 3 to 4 tenths to both of their names at the moment. So you see Jamie Edwards could be quite unlucky here. It does seem he has traffic, but it doesn't seem to minimize his lap time too much as he goes across the line to put himself into P6. Once again with that 147.9, he is able to do another lap here, but we do see there is going to be a portion on the 2 there on the outside line. They do make contact with each other. It's just a tiny bit of door rubbing. It's Jamie Edwards trying to get past quite aggressively. He manages to do it. Doesn't lose too much time there. He is going to be in the red delta though. He might be able to make it back going through the rest of the lap. But it is going to be Jamie Edwards now 2.5 tenths down on his personal best lap time. So as now we do see Taron unfortunately losing all of that lap time he gains going through the first of the Lesmos. Going into the max weight time, and now we don't see anyone who has crossed the finish line just yet. What's that? Mickey Taylor, a driver we haven't seen today, but going through Ascari. 4 tenths up on his personal best lap time. Potentially unlucky with traffic throughout qualifying, but it does seem he is going to go through Parabolica 6 tenths up if he is able to materialize this lap time here. 1 corner left to go, trying to minimize the amount of time he loses. Actually, he's completely doing the right thing and almost actually gaining nearly 10.5 there on his first best lap time, but it doesn't seem he used all of the exit and just was a bit scared to get in the throttle, it seems. Using a tiny bit of his time, but he goes across the line. Oh my days, it's not even going to be a position gain there for him. That's at a 148.7, which seems to be invalid there for him. Not sure where he could have potentially invalidated it. Potentially into the Lesmos, that's my only guess, or potentially Ascari. But the only thing with invalidating going into Ascari is you have the sand trap, so you can't really invalidate it. But does seem now Daniel Trambaglio actually going to be improving his lap time at the moment. It's still not going to be enough for pole position. He's about 2 tenths up on his first best lap time. Now going through Parabolica for the final time for him. Able to gain a tiny bit of lap time there going through. Going to be just under 3 tenths that he's going to be able to gain, and he goes across the line to just sell 147.3, so it's not going to be enough to be able to take away Grands or Granades P1 with that 147.052. That is going to be the end of qualifying there. That is definitely one of the more eventful qualifying, to say the least. It does seem everyone is going to be pretty much mere millimeters with each other. In fact, the top from what we see is going to be from P1 all the way down to P, I think it's P25 or something, all within a second of each other, which is going to be very, very good cheer for tonight's race. We don't have that long to do a grid walk, so I don't think we'll be able to do all of the cars, but we will obviously try our best to do them. It might be a tiny bit shaky, I'm not too sure. I haven't been able to set everything up properly as I don't have a lot of time. We go back into game time to do a track walk here for tonight. We do see it's going to be Granades on pole position, the silver driver being able to take pole position with that 147.052 that he did, followed then by Daniel Trambaglio, the first of the pro drivers, followed then as well by Radix Wicks, Ampulian and Taron being able to take the top 5 there. Going outside of the top 5, we do see it's going to be Tommy Griffiths, followed then by Jamie Edwards and John Weiser taking the top 8, followed then by Spencer, and it's going to be Oslage, I think you have to say it like that, And then we see Zampiri in the 165 BMW M4, followed then by Chris Hill, I believe it is, or it's Craig Hill, one of the two, I'm sorry, in the 888 BMW M4, followed then by Simon Turner as well, in the 346 Ferrari 296, as well as Ramirez, Kenneth Race as well, Cisco and Mercier rounding up the top 17, as well as Basari, Wicks and Nieto being able to round out the top 20 there, him being in the Porsche 992 GT3. So we're going outside now. We do see it's going to be Jim Emanuelson in the 167 McLaren 720S Evo, as well as followed then by Bartolucci in the 8, followed then by as well as Madship, who I haven't actually seen that much here, now in the 27, followed then going outside of what I can actually see. It's going to be, I'm a bit confused where I am. This is going to be here Bergio in the 747 as well, followed then by Rossas and Mark GG in the 989 Greg's livery, which doesn't seem to be using a Greg's livery, unfortunately, with Ralph Van Loo as well as Mickey Taylor and Audsley being able to round out the top 30 there. I'm not sure we're going to have time to do everything else there, but that is going to be the grid walk here for tonight to take on Monza. It's obviously that 1 hour and 30-minute race, so it's going to have to be quite an eventful thing, hopefully, to be able to commentate on, but it could obviously be quite eventful, or it could be obviously quite boring. It doesn't see just yet. Try and be putting a lot of support there for one of his teammates, I believe, of Daniel Chambaglio being able to sit in pole position here. As we do see now, we are green for the formation lap. Quite a long formation lap here. I believe it's going to be around 3 minutes 50, depending on how fast they go for the formation lap. But we do see it's going to be David Granez taking pole position here for tonight, having to do that one mandatory pit stop that we can see the one on your screen on the timing board within each driver's name. That is going to be for mandatory fuel. As I have said earlier, it's a mandatory of 1 litre with no fixed fuel timer here for today's race, which does make it a tiny bit more interesting. So you can't actually splash and dash with many of these cars, because actually none of these cars, because the max, I think the newest cars does on, I think it's the Ferrari 296, that is the most fuel efficient car, and I think that's 75 minutes, I believe. So yeah, you have to do an entire tank and then potentially do however much you are left with for the rest of the race. So it's a different pit strategy, to say the least. It might be everyone doing the same pit strategy, or it might change throughout the race, and that's something I won't be able to say until we get further into the race, to say the least. George Ramirez, that is a driver in the server. I'm not sure how he's texting. I believe it's saying go Jamie, or it actually could be his brother or relative, sorry. Now going through the Lesmos. Quite difficult corners, to say the least, especially with on Lesmo 2. The exit has that dip, which is obviously quite well, part of the line you have to take. But if you take it wrong, especially in the wet, having the astroturf that you can see just there, the green part sticking out, can completely unsettle your car. And there is one very, very hefty metal barrier on both the left and right side of your screen as well. So there is a lot of consequence if you take it wrong, to say the least. But it is a very colourful grid here tonight. It seems most people having their own custom liveries, which I do like to see. Now getting ready to do the final few corners of Sector 3. So we enter it now. Only 2 corners actually separating Sector 3. And that is going to be Ascari and then Parabolica, separated with one quite big straight off the back straight before we go into start-finish straight. Getting ready to go green here. It is going to be obviously a track that is mainly known for the incidents that happen at turn 1. We might see quite a chaotic start to the race, or we could see quite a clean start. I'm not too sure what to think just yet. It could be everyone going in one piece or multiple pieces. But at the moment, this is where being at the front of the grid is potentially the best, or even the back of the grid is probably the best places to actually be to start this race. Being in the mids like P20 is going to be pretty awful for you, to say the least, as we go through the final corner of Parabolica on the formation to go green here for round 5 at Monza for the split intermediate pro-am server for Formula Racing League. So you creep ever so closer to the line. Drivers getting ready. So we are now green here at Monza for Formula Racing League Pro-Am Championship. As it is going to be already, David Granez being able to take it. It's going to be free wide already going in to the first corner. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Tarrant nearly hitting that. The Reddick Twits going in to turn 1, being able to actually survive that. I'm actually quite surprised about that, but it does seem there's almost a late break show going further back there. That is going to be a pit move there of Tarrant, but he's able to save himself with another car. That's actually going to be a BMW, and that's also going to be a Ferrari cutting the chicane as well. A lot of chaos going on in the first few corners, to say the least. Tarrant being able to survive there with probably a minimal damage, to say the least. He's still going to have a bit of damage. You might be able to feel it going through some of the aero reliant corners. We do see this could be Oslage going here on Kenneth Reyes, who going into the second chicane. I'm not sure what just happened there, but both of them completely cutting the chicane. Now, I think that I've never seen that before, I have to say. And that is going to be him losing very much positions, and that is also going to be him getting his first track cut limit going into the first 2 minutes of this race here. As we do see in chat, Trambaglu still getting a lot of support, as well as Thea Nothing Motor. I believe that is a team, actually, as we do see that it's going to be Kenneth Reyes on Osmarch once again for position, and both of them actually being quite, well, resilient with each other. Seems that it's Osmarch being able to still take it, and that's going to be Kenneth just having to tuck himself still in the battle of that position, going into P8 as well as going further down there. As we do see once again, it's this large train that's starting to occur between these three, as Radix as well, trying to get these moves done as early as he possibly can. As he goes side by side here, going into Parabolica, he gets the inside line, which is always the efficient way to get past the car quickly, but it doesn't seem to work, as Kenneth Reyes actually is almost at risk as well. But he wasn't able to get past Kenneth Reyes at the same time, and just slots himself up into P9 there, as it does work for him. Radix on Oslage, but it isn't going to work for him on Kenneth Reyes just yet, as well as we do have to infer that the slipstream actually might be quite strong here, as it's all straight here. As we do see, that's going to be a Ferrari braking very late, and having the inside line could actually help him quite a bit, as there's going to be a lot of door rubbing here going in to the first chicane, and this is something just we have to remember. This is always going to happen. It's very, very narrow chicane, so that's going to be a car off. I'm not sure who that is, and it doesn't seem race control likes to give me any information either anymore, and that's going to be him dropping many positions, and that is going to be potentially the end of his race. Just needs to remember that is still lots and lots of time left, as we get a replay there, and it does just seem it happens before even exiting the last part of the chicane there. So I'm not really sure what happened there. It does seem he's flashing, so he's not happy, to say the least, but he has lost a lot of positions, putting himself into P28 now, and potentially going to lose even more positions as well. As this is going to see the damaged crew, a lot of cars with quite a bit of damage further down in the grid now. But we do see there is going to be a few positions starting to take place here, as well as James Audsley trying to get this move done on Ralph Van Loo, but I don't see where Van Loo actually is. Van Loo actually losing the position to James Audsley, going into Lesmo number 1, it seems. I'm managing to try and escape going into Lesmo 2 before going into Ascari. It does seem Cisco there in that Lexus going for the inside line, going to an Ascari. Does get the move done. There's going to be a switchback. There's going to be a tiny bit of contact between the both, but he is still able to keep the position and goes up into P17 provisionally. At the moment, we could see him lose that position once again, but at the moment he stays ahead. So it's going down. It's Eklund on a beautiful livery, I must say. I actually have a feeling I know what that livery is inspired off, but I can't put a name to the head. It's an artist that does doodles, I believe, but I might be getting that wrong. But it's a lovely livery, whichever way it was presented as. But we do see another slipstream for him on Perry. Is going to be quite strong here, as we can see how close he actually is, and how he's going to be able to get this on well, practically on point, hopefully being able to go for the inside line, but it does seem he backs out there, so we do see he's actually going very, very defensive there, and that's going to be 2 cars off. That is almost, I'm not even sure what happened there. That's going to be BMW M4 also off, and it does seem that's going to be another sacrificial track limit cut there for both Perry, and that's going to be Eklund as well, being able to get past Perry there with, well, I'm not even sure what happened there, but as well as the 992 also getting involved with this, well, because they've lost quite a few positions, so it's going to be Rassas under pressure from Eklund now going into the second chicane. Again, a lot of flames there, the Aston Martin, but he has to go to the Mia halt there, Marco, because of what seems to be 2 cars in front of him, almost going to a standstill, as well as we do see is going to be a few cars actually off, and that's going to be Mickey Taylor. Fortunately, with Ralph Lewis, we'll get a replay on what happened going in to, oh my days, that is very dangerous on what happened there. It does seem going into the chicane, Ralph Van Loo just actually at neutral, not moving at all, and Mickey Taylor just going completely into the back of him there. Lucky it didn't take anyone else out apart from these two, but that was definitely another, but that's not something I've seen every day, let's just say the least. This could be Giorgio trying to get this move done on Basari. No, it's not going to be close enough, but we can already see how the pace difference is splitting between the lobby, as there is quite big gaps between each packs now already, but that could be anomalous as well, with people battling at different stages, people also having the unfortunate issue of having damage very early stages into the race. So that now we can actually see that's going to be the 992 of, I believe that is going to be Nieto, who's still in the position he qualified in, now trying to get the switch back on the Ferrari of Soling for position. He now has he has the outside line going into Curva Grande, but Curva Grande isn't really the best of corners when it comes to trying to overtake. In fact, it's not really classed as a corner that well in terms of an overtaking opportunity, but he has the inside line now going into the second chicane, but he isn't going to be able to get close enough for a responsible overtake. But again, it seems it's happened with Soling as well, just going to a halt there. That's going to have to cause Alex to potentially sacrifice a position to actually keep them both on track. You can see now Leeson and James Williams as well in the FRL Racing League team car as well behind all of this, just trying to wait for an opportunity to potentially get all 3 of these positions. We can see that was Leeson almost losing the back of that BMW M4 there, going into Lesmo 2, but it doesn't seem James Williams was able to retaliate and get that position done. As well as that, we can go further down, and so that's going to be Simon Turner going for a huge swerve there, going on to the straight before Ascari, and that's going to be a yellow flag. I'm not sure what that is, but that is going to be now Rassas losing the position to Simon Turner. Simon Turner, obviously the faster driver, but had that issue going into the first chicane. Unfortunately, has to stay and have to try and gain all of these positions under the amount of time he has been assigned of 1 hour and 22 minutes left. So you can see there's a bit of gap now to the rest of the rivals ahead of him, and that is going to be, I believe it's going to be Leeson, who he has to try and overtake next, actually. Ramirez is the best by Dane's Swords, I believe is how you say your name. It does seem there's a lot of support for a lot of different cars here, which is good to see. It does seem track temperature is starting to decrease a bit, and this is going to be a huge battle here. We can see it can potentially go to tiers here, almost going 3 wide here. We can see the 992 under pressure. Yeah, that is going to be Rassas almost losing the position. He has lost the position to Eklund here, but we can see once again Perry having to go to almost neutral. They're almost getting a bit of a love tap from Baroluki behind him, but now Bartolucci having issue of Sal, who was able to get past him pretty quickly, and now Sal has been able to retrieve his position of P27. As well as that, we'll go further up in the grid to see if we can find any other battles that is taking place on track right now. Seems James Williams actually getting once again closer to Leeson to try to take that top 20 position. Losing a tiny bit of time going into Ascari now. This is where James Williams will probably be under quite a higher advantage point with the aero-reliant McLaren 720S. Evo compared to where we do see the BMW actually could also be quite good around that track part as well, of Ascari having that front engine car being able to take a lot more of the sausage curbs than what James can in the FR route McLaren. But we can now see he's actually under pressure here from Oslage behind him in the number 3 BMW M4 GT3. Now going to the start finish straight. Looks like he's already trying to go for a move early, but he's going to have no overspeed on James William here for positions. But actually now, speaking of it, he actually gets quite a bit of overspeed with the slipstream. But is he going to go for a dive bomb? Yes, he is. James Williams saw that from miles away, tries to cover the line off. He does do successfully there from Oslage, and it's now going to have to be Oslage waiting once again to try go for a position change. But at the moment, James Williams being able to maintain his position of P21, but has lost a lot of time to the rest of the field there, of now 1.8 seconds to the other BMW of Leeson ahead. You could barely see him in the camera view there. As well as that, we can see Tarrant's actually starting to make moves here going into Lesman. That's going to almost be Wicks losing the car there, being able to get past Tarrant. But now is there going to be retaliation here from Tarrant going through Yaskari? He has the overspeed here. You can see it's going to potentially go side by side here, using a tiny bit of speed. But Tarrant just under the unfortunate event of Wicks actually being able to place his car in quite an unpredictable manner, which is actually quite good for Wicks, putting his car in the middle. Was able to maintain this position though for now. Framed from the front, please. Can you please specify, please, what you're trying to say? And hopefully I can help what you're asking for. But now Wicks actually losing once again time to Tarrant. Tarrant seems to be all over the rear of Wicks. I'm assuming there might have been a mistake made by Tarrant now going into the first chicane. There's also going to be another mistake by another one of the drivers. Do you see that's going to be Matthew Reynolds on, I believe, one of the OLR teammates of his. Now, hopefully James Audley does not make it too difficult for him, as there's a lot of damage to that McLaren as well. So this could be a big advantage point here for Matthew Reynolds as they go side by side here going into start finish straight. As we also see that's going to be, I think that's Mark GG behind him as well, almost trying to go for positions here. Go 3 wide here going into turn 1. I'm not sure how this is going to work here. It does seem James Audley is now out the fight, and still going to be now Mark GG actually being able to just go a tiny bit well later onto the brakes going into turn 1, and now they still are going to see Mark GG gaining 2 positions in the span of 1 corner there. Both of the OLR lobby members still fighting with each other, but Mark GG being able to get past quite quickly and efficiently, and trying to get past as many more cars as he potentially can. Matthew Reynolds actually starting to create a bit of a gap, as we can see his teammate gets a bit of a moment there, but was able to save it there. And that's going to cause a bit more of a breathing space here for Matthew Reynolds, his teammate, and now try to attempt to overtake Mark GG for position. I don't think I've ever seen Mark GG's name so much in a simple sentence. But now we have, as we do now see, this could be Marco Rosas under more pressure once again. He's not having the greatest of race now so far, losing the position there to Bartolucci, as well as he goes very wide. He's going to lose a lot of that momentum going on to this back straight before Parabolica. Could potentially see Mark GG catch up, but it's actually not going to be that easy. That's what genuinely, TC, that is exactly what I said earlier. I'm not really sure at this point. Tarrant as well now having the outside line going into Curva Grande, not going to be the best, but he will have the advantage point if he's able to stick it going into the second chicane on what I believe is going to be Spencer, but Spencer was able to get past. Then Tarrant going back into P10. He's been in that position a few times, so I'm assuming a few people potentially have pitted. We have seen that is going to be Van Loop, Mad Chip, and Mickey Taylor, all 3 drivers pitting quite early there. I'm not sure if that's going to be the strategy there, and that is going to be once again Tarrant getting a tiny bit of grass there going into the first Lesmo. Needs to be very careful of this, because this is what we've seen previously with a few cars having that exact same incident, just taking a bit of the grass and just spinning out. But now, once again, Taran playing for the inside line, looking to get that move done, going into Ascari. It's not going to work for him. He has to stick his car behind, and hopefully he can get a better overspeed for him. Going into the back straight before Parabolica. It doesn't seem he is. That Ferrari will have quite a balanced power ratio, being able to carry quite a bit of ring, but still having quite a high speed as well. Batek, Reddick Wicks now putting pressure on Kenneth Reyes in that BMW M4. Using the wing as a reference point to see how much time actually Reddick Wicks actually makes under slipstream. At the moment, it seems he's actually gained quite a significant amount. He does go for the inside line, looking like he's going to try lunge for it. He isn't just yet, as Reddick Wicks still in P6, but it does seem that is going to be Kenneth actually making a tiny bit of a mistake going into the last part of the Fisher Kane, and that is going to be then Reddick Wicks being able to get past. It's going to be a tiny bit of door rubbing and going through Curva Grande now. Both of them still side by side, neck on neck. As well as we can see Jamie Edwards looking to see if he can pick up any scraps going into the second chicane. And that is going to be once again a late break there. Barely any room between them both. And that's still going to be Reddick Wicks taking the position. But Kenneth Reyes being able to squeeze him as much as he can without leaving no racing room left. And that is going to be now Kenneth Reyes being able to defend his position, maintaining P5. Adam Minitz, Reddick Wicks in P6. And then Jamie Edwards in P7 at the time being. Mr. GG not on the Macca, never thought I would see that. He was in the Macca last series. I'm trying to think here because I was doing last series as well as Kenneth Reyes actually defending once again, going to Ascari as well, as we do see Jamie Edwards looking for a bit of a fight as well. But it does seem he was in the McLaren last season, I believe, but he has changed to the Porsche since. But I'm not sure if it's on my end because I synced the liveries twice tonight because I was unconfident of how I actually did it the first time. But it did seem he doesn't have a livery with obviously him representing Greg's. It doesn't seem his livery is working, or it's just a complete white livery. Trying to be seen first to absurd step. It does seem there is already from the top two. 147.7, the best lap time here from David Granes. Now being able to separate P1 and P2 by just under 5 seconds, and P2 to P3 5.2 seconds, as well as Tommy Griffiths to P3 5.2 seconds as well. Then Kenneth Reyes 2.9 seconds behind. So there is quite a big gap between the top five so far, but we do see Melvin Eklund actually looking to try to get this move done on Soling. Going into turn one there, it looks like he's going for a bit of a lunge. Hopefully he does get it done here, but it doesn't seem. He goes for basically a complete halt there. He tries to go for some sort of switchback. It didn't work for him just yet, and that is still going to be Soling in the lead of this fight as we speak. He is able to actually do somewhat of an effective defensive strategy going into turn one. Can he do the same thing going into turn two? At the moment, he isn't protecting the inside line, probably for the benefit of getting the inside line for the second part. Does seem Eklund gets the move done. That didn't seem too difficult actually for Eklund to get past. So I think everything I just said I jinxed and commentators cursed, so I apologize for that. With an hour and 12 minutes left to go, we are starting to lose battles here, unfortunately, but this could be Bartek, Reddick Wicks now once again side by side here with Kenneth Reyes for position. Kenneth still having the inside line going into Parabolica, still being able to maintain his position at P5. This is where you start to think in the next 11 minutes or so, will we see people like Reddick Wicks who might actually struggle to get past Kenneth Reyes, but now he does have quite a significant slipstream here. He's already inbound. Is there going to be any sort of defensive line going for Kenneth Reyes? He is looking to try to take the inside line, which he has done, as we did see there was a bit of a race there with Reddick Wicks to try and get the inside line. Kenneth Reyes being able to achieve that going into turn one. Now it does seem there's a mistake there from Kenneth Reyes. That is going to be him having to cut the corner to keep it, and is he going to be able to keep the position with overspeed? It does seem Reddick Wicks is going to go side by side with him going into Curva Grande. It does seem the overspeed is going to be in the favour of both Jamie Edwards and Reddick Wicks here, but it does seem his tail is still under pressure from the nose of Kenneth Reyes' car. Now going into turn two, it does seem Reddick Wicks does have to prey just by braking a tiny bit later. It did work for him. He has actually already been able to create quite a big gap for himself into turn 2, going into Lesmo 1 and 2. Jamie Edwards the next to try and get past Kenneth. Kenneth not being an easy car to get past. He did brake a lot later though, going into turn 1, potentially trying to defend, but just got a tiny bit too eager on the throttle and forgot to brake almost. 20 minutes into the race so far. Well, now we do see Kenneth Rhodes actually starting to lose time to Jamie Jamie Edwards is starting to lose time to Kenneth Rhodes there, so Kenneth Rhodes actually trying to put a tiny bit of effort into trying to get and maintain his P5 that he originally had. At the moment, it does seem it might be a tiny bit difficult for him. So I was trying to open my window then, so I was trying to focus on two things at once. My window is now open. It is absolutely boiling in the UK, or where I am in Wales anyway. It might be different for other parts of the UK. I believe it was 21 degrees here today, so absolutely boiling. And I'm at the front of the house where the sun absolutely beams on it all day, so I have to keep my curtains closed. But I have to also keep my window closed most of the time when doing commentary because I don't want to disturb the neighbours. So my room does turn into a tiny bit of a sauna, especially with a hefty PC blowing out a bunch of hot air and having to keep my door closed because of my soundproofing. Everything starts adding up, and this is why I do prefer, when it comes to commentary, I like doing it in the winter, but I do prefer summer. That was very, very off topic. I apologise, but it's done now. Jonathan Sorling actually trying to go for a move there on James Williams, but it does seem he's spun on his own there. There didn't seem to be any contact between the two. Going into a scurry, we'll get a replay. James Williams not looking to defend it, going to a scurry. What happened there? It does seem he spun on his own there, just getting a bit unsettled on the inside apex as he didn't hold his brakes there. Almost going into upcoming traffic there. As well as that is going to be the two cars of Van Loo actually under pressure as well from Emmanuelson in 4th position, I believe that is. And if that is going to be matchup, there's a bit of contact between them both going into Parabolica. Still able to keep it there, but Van Loo actually losing the position there. It does seem he went very, very wide going into the exit of Parabolica, and that just let the door open for Madship. Is there could be retaliation there from Van Loo in the Bentley Continental. It does seem he's going to have quite a good overspeed there on that Ferrari, but is it going to be enough to go into turn 1? No, it is not. There's still quite a hefty gap between them both. Might have to try and retaliate at a different time. Madship could potentially be the faster car in terms of this, but at the moment as it stands, last laps, it does seem Madship doing a 150.2 and then Van Loo doing a 152.4, so there is a significant difference in pace advantages there. So Madship already starting to create a gap going into the second corner. Already being able to create himself an 8/10 gap just into the first sector alone, as we have seen a humongous contact there. That is good to be. I'm not even sure who that is. Who is that? Who is that? Is that the leader? I'm not. Who was that? it seemed to be a very... We'll get a 30-second replay on this going through the first Lesmo there. It doesn't seem that was an issue for him just yet. Going into the second Lesmo. Gets onto the... I told you about that. It just gets onto the grass going into the exit of Lesmo 2. Causing him to go into the wall at very, very high speeds there. And unfortunately, that is going to be him returning to garage. And that is potentially going to be the first retirement of the day. 30 minutes into the race. Didn't seem to be too much damage, but he might be changing it. He might just try to repair for his damage. But that is also going to be... Got to remember, now that he's returned to garage, if he does come back out of pits, it's not going to amount to his mandatory pit timer. Because at this time, you can actually do another full tank on fuel. So this is when we'll start seeing some of the undercutters starting to pit for fuel, and this is when we might start seeing the battles actually starting to come alive once again, as it's actually already starting to happen a tiny bit. As Nieto, who's actually been able to gain 4 places since the start of this race now in P16, looking to try to take P15 here from Bassari in the 102 Ferrari 296, now going into the Ascari all over the rear of him here now. Bassari under a lot of pressure from Nieto going through the back straight now before Parabolica. There's going to be a big overspeed difference here for the 992, but it doesn't seem it's going to be too effective for him just yet. He might just have to tuck himself in. Hopefully just wait going on to start finish straight to actually be able to do any sort of move. So he has to wait and see. Well, someone could actually say, because I haven't actually been able to check because I got home 10 minutes before the race. Is the mic quality sounding alright? Does it sound a tiny bit distorted, or does it sound too quiet? I haven't been able to check. So if anyone could say that, that would be greatly appreciated. TC saying, gotta get that Granades guy out of rookies. That is not for me to decide. I'm not an admin that let the admins source that out later on, either in the season or after this race. Action will either be taken or definitely will be investigated at the end of this race if people complain about it. But it's all down to the admin team now. Sorry, starting to get a tiny bit of grip now. Being able to increase the gap to about 3 tenths, but going through Lesmo 1, he seemed to make a tiny bit of a mistake. And the gap down to 3 tenths here, but the 992 obviously doesn't have as much top-end speed compared to Bassari's 992, which is going to be an effect here for him, to say the least. I'm going to try break a tiny bit later, going into Ascari. Still, once again, has to back off. Getting back on with it. Has been a tiny bit of a change. Just had a bit of a drink there, so we're getting closer to the hour mark. Now, been quite eventful to say the least, as we do see the first 2 pitters starting to come in. It does seem Marco might be coming in more for the damage perspective of his car. Now, 60 minutes left of this race. There's a lot of damage to Rissar's car, and that is also going to be Audsley coming in. I believe Audsley actually has a tiny bit of damage too. You can barely see it on his car, but that is going to be a tiny bit of damage there for him, as well as one of the other OLR cars going out of the pits as well. Stefan Sal on Matthew Reynolds now for position, going into back straight before Parabolica. It's going to be him getting the overspeed on Matthew Reynolds. That's an indefinite statement. He is going to go side by side going into Parabolica. Decides to take the outside line to potentially formulate a switchback going into the end of Parabolica. It isn't going to work. He has this again tucked behind him in P25. Matthew Reynolds still being able to maintain his place to P24. They seem to start to try weave a tiny bit to try break the slipstream here between the two cars, but there's a humongous rubber banding effect going on. We do see how much time Sal actually gained going into the first chicane. He breaks a tiny bit later, but does seem he has to actually overcorrect himself there going into the end of chicane, and that is going to be Matthew Reynolds still being able to take his position. He's going to glue himself to the inside line going into Curva Grande, but it does seem he's almost trying to let him go. But now going into the middle of the track, seeing who will take the inside line going into turn 2 is crucial. Chicane number 2. Matthew Reynolds breaking a lot later there. Going to lose him a bit of time on exit there compared to him and Sal. Stefan Sal now trying to look to go on to the inside line going into Lesmo 1. Not going to work for him just yet once again. Going to be in this huge loophole. I keep saying loophole, but it's definitely supposed to be loop. Keeps being in this loop of being able to catch up quite significantly, not being able to get by, and then losing that time because of consistency. This time might be the end of this loop, and we do see him now going for the inside line going into Ascari, but both of them still side by side, neck on neck. Matthew Reynolds again the better exit going out of Ascari. And now, once again, Sal losing that position, or chance of gaining that position, shall I say, as well as what we do see, as well of the two drivers who are actually further up in the grids, I believe. I'm not sure who they two are. I think that is Sauling. I believe that is also going to be... I think that is Madship, actually. Trying to regain his position, but they are still going to go side by side with each other. We'll continue watching these two. They're still side by side going into start-finish straight, as well as what we still see is Stefan Sal actually losing a lot of space there into the inside line. Getting squeezed there a tiny bit as we do see he's able to get by, as well as what we do see there is going to be Jonathan Sauling losing the position to the blue flagger, and that is actually going to be him having to overcorrect himself. There's going to be contact between both of them. It's going to cause Jonathan Sauling to unfortunately be pit maneuvered him there, and that is also going to be him losing a lot of time as well. That black Ferrari, because of unfortunately them both being basically collided with each other, but he is both able to get up and running once again. Both drivers not going to be happy with each other, to say the least, as well as Oslage now in number 3 BMW M4 looking to get past Basari quite quickly. There's going to be contact between both of them, and it's going to be Romain Oslage unfortunately going into the water very high speed there to get a quick replay on what happens there going through Ascari. He gets a much better exit and entrance going into Ascari compared to Basari, and does seem to try to go for the move there, but gets on the sausage curve that untails a car, throws him into the middle of the track, which gets him accidentally pit maneuvered by Basari, and that's going to cause him a lot of damage there going into the pits. Now that is going to potentially be close to a minute or so, potentially more of damage, so he is going to do his mandatory pit stop, but with a lot of extra time added to it. There is another yellow flag. I'm not sure what that is. I believe that is just because of coming into the pit glitch. There is nothing to worry about just yet, as well as that is actually going to be Wicks. He's actually not classed as in the pits at the moment. What has happened here? He's losing many positions as we speak. This is again a new one. He isn't actually pitting. We will stay on board with him because he will try to come out of the pit if it has served his mandatory pit stop. We'll have to find out, or unless we've had a disconnect. That's a very, very odd place to have a disconnect. At the moment, it does seem he has the pit limiter on. But how odd. That's going to put him practically dead last there. He does come out of the jack, so he was in the pits there. That is going to be him coming out of the pits, and it has actually served its mandatory pit stop. It isn't representing him with the pit logo there on the timing board, so that is a new one. Howard McDonald was saying, Gunners has way too much speed to be in rookies. So I see the promotion coming. Believe it or not, you're not the first person to say that. And I'm going to say the same thing, that's all down to the admin team, obviously. And that will all be looked at and taken into consideration by the FRL ACC admin team. And obviously all info will be posted in the ACC announcement channel if there is any sort of change in anyone's licenses. But he is let's say quite a quick driver. Attack almost going into the rear end there of Tommy Griffiths, being able to stay out of it though, stay out of trouble, but now trying to get past Tommy Griffiths once again. We have seen this before, him trying to get past Tommy Griffiths for position to try and get up into the top 5 and potentially even to the top 3. The podium step there, as we can see, that is going to be Kenneth Ray's putting a bit of pressure there on Emmanuelson, who isn't actually full position, so he has to let him go at some point. So let's now go into Ascari. A bit of flashing there from Batek. I'm not sure what that was for. To Tommy Griffiths going through Ascari. 53 minutes left to go. Both being able to survive Ascari. Can be very sketchy getting onto that inside curb. I'm going to side by side. Tommy Griffiths unfortunately losing that position to Radek Wicks. Radek Wicks going up into the top 5 there. Just getting a very, very exquisite, you could say, exit going into Parabolica. And now both of them are still going to be fighting with each other. That does seem it's still going to be single file, and that's going to be Patek taking P5 for now. There might be retaliation there from Tommy Griffiths, as we have seen before. But getting closer and closer to the pit. Time for most of these drivers, as we can see how many people have pitted so far. Seems to be actually quite a few people now. P27 all the way to P34 have pitted. We do see now Sorden coming into the pits. It does seem he is carrying a tiny bit of rear end damage there, so that is going to affect his pit time as well. Of course, now we do see Nitro or Nietro or Nieto. Whoa. Italian names were very difficult to pronounce. Now getting past. Looking into P13 there in the NERT 2024 Porsche 992 livery, as well as going further down. Simon Turner braking a bit later, as he has done a very, very good job to go up into P15. Once again, at the moment, if he's able to maintain this with 52 minutes left to go, he might be able to potentially get into the top 10, as I'm not sure what happened there. Simon Turner. Ooh, getting very, very loose, as I should stop speaking, as he's now in a very, very vulnerable place, to say the least, and that's going to be both drivers having to go on to the gravel there to avoid Simon Turner going into the first Lesmo, but very, very good avoidance from both the BMW of Leeson, and I'm not sure, I think that might have been, I believe that could have been, I'm actually not sure who that Porsche might have been. I think that was Stefan Sal, both being able to avoid them at very, very little warning. I think we have just potentially lost a driver. No, we have not. Mickey Taylor now coming into the pits. Same with Noah Perry's been in the pits for quite a while. He has retired from the race, unfortunately. Tommy Griffiths once again actually losing the position to Jamie Edwards there, as we will get a replay on that, as we do see him going into turn 1. Does seem it's completely on top of speed there. It seems the slipstream that Jamie Edwards was receiving from Tommy Griffiths just was able to get him past at quite an early stage of that start-finish straight. Still though, Tommy Griffiths practically on the rear end of him there as Jamie Edwards actually goes quite wide there. It's also going to be Magnussen cutting the second chicane. Both of them now potentially going to receive another track warning, as we haven't seen this, and I haven't actually discussed about it yet, as Monza isn't a track you usually see many track warnings given out. It's usually silly errors that you see them being given out, especially accidentally cutting turn 1. That is an obvious one, but I can actually give you a stop go 30, I believe, if you cut it wrong. As well as we do see most chicanes are quite cuttable, which is going to cause some of the drivers to receive those track limit penalties that we have seen a few times. We haven't seen any sort of drive-through penalties being awarded just yet to any drivers. We can see potentially around half of the grid have actually pitted now, edging closer and closer to the halfway mark of this race. Tommy Griffiths starting to lose time on Jamie Edwards now. Both Ferraris of Botteg and Jamie were able to get past Tommy Griffiths with much time to spare, as we now do see this could be Luca on James Williams. Here we have seen James Williams have a bit of an issue with a car going into Scary previously, which it wasn't his fault at all. In fact, there was no contact between them both, but there was a bit of a sketchy moment from one car. I'm not sure who it actually was. Now going on to the back straight, this is going to be somewhere he can actually gain quite a bit of time with that slipstream effect. At the moment they're going to go side by side, now going into parabolic. He tries to brake later, it's not going to work. He has to just stay behind. Now we do see James Williams now going to be quite in a vulnerable position from both now Trambaglio and Bartolucci. Trambaglio trying to get past this car as quickly as he can, with both of these cars as quickly as he can. They all are for position, but we do see Daniel has pitted as he's trying to go into the inside line of both drivers going into turn 1, making 2 overtakes into 1 corner. Brilliant execution there from Daniel Trambaglio. Now going over, unfortunately that's going to be contact as well from James Williams, and that's going to be Bartolucci just misjudging his braking, I believe, and James Williams again pit maneuvered, but it seems there was a bit of a flash in either sorrow or there's also going to be a flash of anger. I'm not too sure how you can interpret it, but it is going to be a bit of damage there for James and also Luca as well. Fifth down as well, Eklund into the pits, same with the Lexus of Cisco. Still all over the rear there. Luca on James Williams. Still not able to get past those. It seems this is actually going to be the potential passing point for Bartolucci on James Williams, as it does seem James got a bit wide going into Lesmo 2. He'll lose a lot of the energy. Now going side by side going into Ascari. Takes a lot of the inside curb there, going through Ascari there. Luca being able to get the move done quite quickly and efficiently. And that's going to be him going up into P16. James Williams unfortunately going down to P17. That might change once again further into the race. Well as that now, seems again Bartolucci losing the position to James Williams going into turn 1, I believe. That's going to be James Williams back up into his original position. Luca down into his original position before this battle started. That's going to be a Porsche absolutely sending it going into the first chicane, second chicane, but it does seem Luca being able to get past quite easily once again, going through Lesmo 1. It does seem now James is going to be all over the rear of him going into the Lesmos 2. Puts Luca off guard a tiny bit and almost makes quite a major mistake going into Lesmo 2. No, there's going to be quite a big gap starting to form between them both if this will happen for the entire of the race. This is something I can't really tell you just yet, but it has happened before. Luca was able to get past, but he did lose that position as we saw earlier, and now that did just happen again, so we could potentially see it again going into the final few minutes of the race. 45 minutes left to go. Another person talking about grants. At this point, I'm just going to have to ask you guys to stop mentioning it, if that's okay. It's just, obviously, the admins will investigate it after the race, but at the moment, we still got 44 minutes left, and most of the admins will be racing, obviously. So, at the moment, we'll see what happens with it, but I'll have to agree there's now a 30-second gap between P1 and P2. There has been a change in what is now pole position of the Pro class. Kenneth Ray's going up to P2, Jim Edwards in P3, but that is because Daniel Trambaglio and Poulin both pitted earlier into the race and started to try to make a tiny bit of a comeback. Daniel Trambaglio into P12 now, starting to overtake people who haven't actually done their pits just yet. Radek Wicks doing his pit stop, gonna put him up into P9 now. Daniel Trambaglio gaining 3-4 positions with an undercut. So now 42 minutes left to go. Oslage starting to get closer to Simon Turner. Simon Turner just doing his pit. Ending up in P25 here, but will gain a few positions because of the undercut. As we speak, is still able to gain time. Only now 41 minutes left to go. We will start seeing a few of these people going into the pits. Now Granad's going into the pit. Max Verstappen of FRL. We do see a few of these drivers starting to actually gain more positions, as we do see Matthew Reynolds losing the position at to what is going to be Radek Wicks, who did pit earlier, as it doesn't seem Matthew Reynolds has pitted just yet. He does seem to be carrying a tiny bit of damage to the front. of his Porsche 992. I'm not sure there's going to be any sort of retaliation between these two. Matthew Reynolds being, unfortunately, the slower driver in this scenario. But potentially might be able to retaliate. As we see James Williams as well there trying to get away. Still needing to do his pit stop at the moment, but carries on in P6 at the moment, as well as Naito in P1, but hasn't done his pit either. As Granite is actually catching P1, who hasn't actually done his pit stop yet, compared to Granite, who has done his pit stop, which does tell you something, to say the least. As well as Madchip. Driver we have seen a few times during this race, now putting a bit of pressure once again on Ralph and Lou. These two drivers have been practically inseparable during this entire race. Does seem he's carrying a ton of bit of damage there to the front of his Ferrari 296. It's not too much thinking of it, but it does seem to go side by side here going onto the back straight before Parabolica. It does seem Ralph will have the inside line of Parabolica, which is going to be quite a key advantage here for him to maintain his position of P29. Now, it does seem no Madchip does send it into the inside, and there's going to be contact between the both, and that's going to be both of them going into the wall there. That's also going to be what's going to be Tommy Griffiths, and that's going to be a bit of contact. That's huge contact there. That I think that's Jamie Edwards going straight into the back of him there, and that's going to lose him a lot of time there, and that's a huge crash for what we've just witnessed there. It doesn't seem he had any sort of idea what was happening. He tried to get off the circuit there. That was going to be Madchip trying to get off reversing, but it didn't seem. Jamie Edwards knew what was going to happen, and that's going to be a lot of damage for both. Well, all three parties involved in that, but mainly for both Madchip and Jamie Edwards, and that might be a race ruiner here for Jamie Edwards, who was looking really strong in the top 5 during this race, and that is a very unfortunate scenario here for him, but he's potentially going to persevere through the race and try to take the checkered flag, and that's what I hope to see. Stefan Sal once again all over the back of Mark GG. Mark not having a lot of a break during this race here. It does seem there's a bit of damage as well to the rear end of Mark GG's 992. He's looking to go for the inside line going into Parabolica. It does seem he breaks a bit later. They're still going to be side by side with each other, and this is still going to be Mark GG having the outside line. It's going to be again contact in the same place of what we saw, and there's going to be the unsettlement of Stefan's car. Unfortunately, that's going to lose him so much time and a lot of damage there for him, as we can get a replay here, as it does seem Marky G just getting a tiny bit of a double rub there with Stefan, just unfortunately causes him to lose control there. That's going to be a first stop go 30 penalty for Ralph Van Loo as well for speeding in the pit lane. That is going to be very unfortunate there for Van Loo. It doesn't seem there's much damage to Stefan's car actually, so he might have got away with it. It doesn't see or any visible damage, to say the least. Anyway, as well as that, as we can see as well, Craig Hill going for the inside line, almost a bit of a juke move there onto Cassell, who we haven't actually seen during this race here practically at all, which can be a blessing or a curse depending on how you want to interpret it. Now do you see Cassell going into the pit here, as now Craig Hill takes P11, but might potentially be, well, currently, well, I think it's about net P9. Think of it in the back market motorsports livery. Lovely looking livery in my opinion. As well as we do see, that is going to be Ross Spencer in P8, putting a bit of pressure there on what is going to be Tommy Griffiths, who had to avoid that big incident with Madchip going into Parabolica earlier. TC saying, holy hold your brakes. I 100% agree. But I think, to defend I shouldn't really defend him because I'm not really stupid, but I think what he's trying to do is get off the racing. Well, any other tarmac he could potentially be in the way of for any of the drivers, but unfortunately it didn't end out too well for both drivers involved in that crash. But hey ho, it does happen sometimes. It is what it is, and you have to just try persevere, as I believe that is what Jamie Edwards is doing. As I do see he has came out of the pits in P28, so he has lost quite a few positions, but he hasn't lost. That is a matter of fact, and he could potentially get P27 as well from Emmanuelson, as there's only a 4-second gap at the moment between them both. But I do have a hats off for him so far, trying to persevere through this unfortunate moment that we did see. as well as that. Now, we do see Perry is not going out of the pits. I thought he was moving them for a second, but he's still very much retired from the race. Bugio, I think is how you say it, putting a bit of pressure down. What is going to be, I believe, is that Craig Hill? No, that's not Craig Hill. That's going to be Taron in P12. He seemed to have just got past in Sector 1 there. Putting himself back up into P11. Putting, unfortunately, Giorgio into P12. But in terms of the biggest loss and the biggest gain during this route, wow, there has been some huge losses and some huge gains here from all drivers. And the one that calls out quite the most is going to be Matthew Reynolds in that OLR Porsche 992 to go through Ascari with 26 positions gained since the start of this race, starting in P32, well, currently in P6 with 34 minutes left to go, followed then by as well, nowhere near as close to as Matthew Reynolds, but it's going to be Melvin Eklund with 18 positions gained since the start of this race, which is still mental, going from P35 to P17 so far. So huge improvement there from him as well. The two of Leeson and James Williams both gaining 14 positions since the start of this race. Well then as well by Sal, he gained 13 positions, can be an unlucky number to some since the start of this race as well, and that is going to be the biggest winner so far of the race. But with the biggest winners becomes the biggest losers as well. And that is going to be, unfortunately, Jamie Edwards, which wasn't really in his control, losing 21 positions, starting in P7, now in P28, with the unfortunate incident that we saw maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago. And that isn't going to be it, though. Unfortunately, there is one other person who's in, or two other people who are in the double digits for losing positions, and that's going to be Madchip in that number 27 Ferrari 992. For Ferrari, I think I'm going crazy. Ferrari 296. As well as, unfortunately, that's going to be Perry, who is at... Why is Perry came back? Huh? Perry back out on the track after he retired temporarily? Okay. With 11 laps down, unfortunately, losing 10 positions since the start of this race. And that is currently what has practically been the race report of this race. As we can see as well, Spencer gaining time here on Tommy Griffiths. As Matthew Reynolds still hasn't pitted, unfortunately, it seems. It does seem on... Yeah, and that is going to be unfortunate there for Matthew Reynolds. It doesn't seem he has pitted, so he will have to pit. So that's why he has gained so many positions since the start of this race. 32 minutes left to go. Seems everyone still seems to be in the 49s and the 50s in terms of race pace, which is still good. Seems the top 5 top runners are still in the 48 or so, which is quite mental to say the least. With a 48-1 last lap by Granez with 31 minutes left to go. Just cusping the hour mark now. the moment. As it seems, I am just trying to find the standings on SimGrid, but it isn't showing me just yet. So I'm just trying to locate it on me phone. But as that has happened, wow, there has been a bit of a change in terms of battles so far. It does seem there's a side-by-side there going into Lesmo 2, but I think that's Craig Hill on the 992 of, I'm not sure who that might be, who are definitely not on the same lap, just one overtaking the other. As currently, what we do see to have in terms of the standings so far, I will just get it up. In terms of Intermediate A, so far it is Jean Weiser with 151 points, followed then by Elio Poulin with 134 points, as well as then Daniel Trambaglio in P3 with 1 point difference between P2 and P3 with 133. They're running at the top 3 for the current standings, midway through for Intermediate A. Going down, Tarrant then with 124 points, running at the top 5. It's going to be Kenneth Reyes, who we have seen quite a few times during this race as well, with 108 points, as well as Patek Radek with 106 points, so a 2-point gap between P5 and P6, which could change in today's race. As well as another quite small gap between P6 and 7 of a whopping 4 points, with 102 by Jeremy Gore, who isn't in this race here tonight. Followed then by Craig Hill of 99 points, who will potentially overtake Jeremy Gore today with 99 points. That is going to be obviously a 4-point difference between them both, I believe. Hang on, no, I should get this right. It's 3. Oh my days. Oh, I'm not good at simple maths. That's not good. Then P9, Luca Basori with 93 points. And then P10, rounding out the top 10, it's Jamie Edwards with 88 points, who's unfortunately had quite an up and down race so far, and it has been more dominant down, as there has been an incident, I believe. I'm not sure where it is, but it seems it has recovered. I can't see the yellow flags anymore, which is annoying, because it seems race control has removed that feature. Hopefully that comes back soon. But now going on to Intermediate B, in terms of the current standings. Current standings are as followed. Madship is leading the championships for Intermediate B with 150 points and a 10-point gap with Willie Mercier with 140 points. Then with a 1-point gap with Romain Osage. Romain will be able to go into P2 if he is able to finish this race with 139 points in P3, followed by Alex Naito, who we have seen a few times during today's race, so he is present with 124 points, as well as Simon Turner, who's had quite a good redemption here in today's race with 109 points. Then again, a 1-point difference between them both. In P6 is Giuseppe Zampieri, who I believe is in this race here tonight. I don't think he's had much screen time. I believe he hasn't had the most interesting of races. Followed then by Giorgio Bugio, who we also have seen a few times in today's race with 102 points. And then Luca Bartolucci, who we have seen in today's race a few times as well, in P8 with 98 points. Then P9 is going to be Ross Spencer with 96 points. Then rounding out the top 10 is going to be Stefan Sal with 93 points. So there is definitely, sorry, pardon me, quite a bit of a championship rivalry going on as we speak. In terms of point scoring systems at the moment, it does seem to be, if I can scroll down, quite high actually, as it does seem every car within the top 35 will gain a point. So it does seem everyone here will gain a point, at least 1 point, if they all stay in the race. I'm assuming that's why Perry stayed out. P1 with 75 points, and P2 with 69 points, and P3 with 64 points, P4 with 60 points, P5 with 57, P6 with 54, P7 with 51, P8 with 48, P9 with 45, P10 with 42, P11 with 39, P12 with 36, P13 with 34 points, P14 with 32 points, P15 with 30 points, P16 with 28 points, P17 with 26 points, P18 24 points. Then it just goes down in twos until you get to P35, which gets 1 point. And I'm not sure if that is going to be the same for both splits here. So if you win overall, you get obviously all of the points, or if it is going to be if you win in split, you get all of those points. That is something that I'm not too sure about. So if anyone can correct me on that, that would be good. An additional point will be awarded to those with the fastest lap of the race, which currently will be Grenez, who is with that 147.7, as we have seen him set earlier into this race. There's only 3 battles actually going on as we speak so far, and that is going to be Alex Nieto in P15, looking to get this move done on Peugeot, who is the championship leader so far in Intermediate A. So there's quite a bit on the line here for him as we speak. So now with 22 minutes left to go, we can actually see Stefan Sal starting to catch up with James Williams again. It seems the blue flag has been shown for what I believe is going to be that Ferrari to Stefan and James Williams. Now, I believe that is Basori, if I am correct. As well as that going down, it's Bartolucci in the Team SPX BMW M4 looking to go on to the outside line, going into the back straight before Parabolica on Mark GG. It is still going to be quite even, but it is going to be a tiny bit of an advantage here for Mark GG, having that inside line going into Parabolica, which seems to help him quite a lot. As we did see, there's quite a big break difference between them both, as Luca tried to outbrake his opponent of Mark GG, but didn't seem to work for him just yet, as we do see Kenneth Raids as well behind him. So that is going to be a huge factor of having to try and let Kenneth Raids by without losing too much time between them both, and Luca trying to get P24 as quickly as he can. 21 minutes left to go, so there's still plenty of time, thinking of it, to get that move done. But obviously with Kenneth Raids behind him, you need to see how patient he might actually be with this. I do want to just say this on behalf of FRO. It's obviously like and subscribe onto this YouTube channel. It's actually getting closer, as I've just checked now, to what is going to be 1.5k subscribers. It's currently at 1.22. So this is going to be a huge launch set going into a Sky. That is a very forceful move, if I say so myself. Luki going up into P24 in quite a harsh way, if I say the least, as we get a replay here on what happened going into the back straight before Ascari. Here it just seems there's going to be a late break here from Luki, just completely pushing Mark GG out the way there. That's going to cause Mark GG to probably raging a tiny bit there. And unfortunately going to get quite a bit of damage there due to that incident with only 90 minutes left to go. See how much damage he's actually, well, has at the moment, but it doesn't seem he's going into the pits to repair it. So now what we see is Ross Spencer now getting the overspeed on Tommy Griffiths for position. He has the inside line there going into turn 1 here. Tommy Griffiths now being able to keep it, but we do now see Ross Spencer being able to keep his nose in the battle. Now going into Kerber Grande, who's going to take the inside line into it. No one at the moment. It does seem they're both still going to be single file, but going into the end of this small little straight, you could say, before going into the second chicane. It does seem there's going to be a later break here from Ross Spencer going into the second chicane. That's going to be him going up into P6 there, and Tommy Griffiths going down to P7, but it does seem it's not over just yet. Tommy Griffiths trying to retaliate and get that position back as quickly as he can, but it's not going to work for him just yet. Ross Spencer going up into P6, and that's going to be Tommy Griffiths going into P7 as it stands. So we also do see, I think that's Mercier behind him as well, starting to catch up, reeling them in. So obviously we don't want to maximize your time battling with each other, because you are going to lose a lot of time to Mercier behind and potentially lose 2 positions if you think about it. So I also apologize if my voice keeps going quite croaky at times. I've just been recovering from being a tiny bit ill, so it is still trying to catch up with me, but luckily my voice is still here with 17 minutes left to go of today's race. That was quite a great battle, to say the least, as we can actually see Mercier's actually reeling in Tommy Griffiths, which isn't good for him, but this is going to be good for Mercier to try and get this position done as quickly as he can. Now getting closer to the end of this race. Now 15 minutes left to go. We can see this is starting to heat up once again between these three. A freeway battle is Santo Mercier, who has been able to reel the gap in to Tommy Griffiths and Spencer now, but it does seem Spencer is having a bit of a hard time to start to actually pull a gap between him and Tommy Griffiths, especially if he keeps doing that into Lesmo 1 and 2, just going a tiny bit wide, losing all of his momentum here, and this could see Tommy Griffiths actually getting the move done once again, going into Ascari. Goes for the inside line. Is he going to go for a later break? Yes, he is. But is it going to work for him? No, it does seem Russ Cook was going to go for a hugely late break, and that is going to be him losing the position there, and that's also going to be him losing control. That's going to also cause Tommy Griffiths to have to get out of the way at any point given, and that is luckily not ended in tears for all three of the drivers, but that is going to lead for Russ to be in tears after all of that hard work he just achieved to get that two positions achieved, now just down the drain, and he has to try once again with 13 minutes left to go, so starting to lose time now. The clock is ticking for him to try and get these positions done. Starting to increase the gaps now. Tommy Griffiths starting to be able to get time for the breather now, with about what seems to be a 7/10 gap between him and P7 now. Now with only 11 minutes left of the race, it does seem everything's starting to settle down once again. The only two battles that are starting to occur, it's not really battles at the moment, it's going to be Tommy Griffiths and Willie Mercier, two drivers, and then we do see as well it's going to be Bottalucci and Leeson. Now Leeson seems to have a lot of damage to the front end of his BMW M4 in that Cush Motorsport livery, which is a lovely livery, may I add. The colour scheme goes very well and kind of reminds me of the Ram Racing BMW M4 and the Mercedes. Looks absolutely lovely. I love that colour scheme. Does seem that damage might be affecting actually Luca from actually catching up once again, so I'm assuming what happened was Bottalucci was able to get by a few laps ago, or probably a good few minutes ago now, and that is causing Leeson to actually start to fall off between them both now, falling off at pace a bit. So you can actually see that it's going to be, I believe, some of the cars in front of him. Wow, but it seems there's actually quite a big gap now between him and P23 of James Williams, of just actually not that big of a gap at all. James Williams behind him, a 5-second gap, as you can barely see him in the TV camera angle as well. Now we do see Mercier's actually starting to catch up on Tommy Griffith's sheer 4 position. This could actually cause Ross Spencer to actually gain more time on these two drivers with only 10 minutes left to go. Can Tommy Griffiths defend for that time? It is possible, but is he able to, well, withstand the pressure? Still in the lead of this battle here, Tommy Griffiths on Mercier, but now we can see how much time Ross Cook is Ross Cook. Sorry, I've just mixed that runner from Africa with this driver, Ross Spencer. He's also been able to catch up, as well as we can actually see. I'm not sure if that is a driver for position as well, but that is going to be all three of these cars for position. But Ross Cook actually losing a bit of time there, going through the second chicane. Bit more of a breather for both Tommy and Mercier, but Mercier actually having a bit of a moment going into Lesmo 1, which has actually caused, once again, Spencer to gain more time. It's actually going to be him going off into Lesmo 2 there, Mercier, but he isn't going to lose too much time. It seems that didn't lose too much speed, but it is still going to be quite an impact with 8 minutes left to go. Does seem now Tommy Griffiths has actually been quite successful of actually breaking the toe there between P6 and 7 of Mercier. Now with a second gap between them both, and it's relatively, well, it's roughly about 8/10 for slipstream to occur, but the slipstream is going to be very weak at that point, so it's not going to be very effective either way. But we do see Taron starting to gain a tiny bit of time here on Ross. There we can see in front of him, as we did see a car going off there, but that was, I think, Jamie Edwards going off, but that isn't for position there. Whoa, I'm not sure who that actually is. Who has spun there? That is going to be Mauro Alexandro Cassell, almost going into Jim Amulason as well. Getting a 15-second replay there. I'm not sure what actually happened there. So we do see, I am assuming he just unfortunately clipped the grass there. Going into Lesmo 2 as he almost hits Jim Amulason as well, as we did just see there, but it does seem he's carrying quite a bit of damage to both front and the back of his car there. In fact, he goes over those very, very bumpy curbs into Ascari. Team SBX car is not looking too good for where that into P28, probably going to be under a tiny bit of attack from Rosas as well. But Rosas actually having a 20-second gap between him and P28 of Casal, so I don't think it's anything to worry about, to say the least. As well, now we do actually see now Ross Spencer's actually looking to go for a move here on Tommy Griffiths. 6 minutes left to go. Can we see Tommy Griffiths being able to defend this for the last 6 minutes? He has been able to before, but it does seem Mishi was able to get by of Tommy Griffiths, so there was a bit of a lack of security there. There's going to be contact between both of them, and it's going to be Ross Spencer getting past that, as well as Taron having to force himself going onto the grass as we get reaping what happens with that going in to turn 1 there, going through the straight. It does seem a bit of a later break there from Tommy Griffiths being able to withstand his position, but it does seem he broke a bit more aggressively than the other two drivers, that caused, unfortunately, Ross to hit him and pit maneuver Tommy, and that's going to lose Tommy quite a few positions, bringing himself, locating him now down into P9, as we can also see Craig Hill in the distance as well, also doing the second chicane. So he needs to be careful of what happens now between all of them, but we have lost all of the battles now with 5 minutes to go. But it has definitely been one of the more interesting races, to say the least. With only 5 minutes left to go, we do obviously, well, expect the battles to be, what, worse for wear, I guess you could say. With obviously an hour and a half of race in 90 minutes, you could say, being quite a long time to race and being able to battle for. And it does seem the FRL team of both intermediate A's and B's have been able to do that for today. Intermediate, I think it's either one of those. But being able to do it here for today. 3 minutes left to go. Roughly 2 laps. Well, depending on where Grannis is. At the moment, he's going through the first chicane. So I believe it is going to be 2 laps. He has been able to create a 35-second gap going into the penultimate lap. So he definitely is one of the faster drivers, to say the least. We just have to go. We did see there is a yellow flag there, but this is going to be now David trying to get past the lap traffic of, I think that is Rosas in the Porsche 992. Going on for the penultimate lap for real this time. What was that? It does seem Eklund's actually going into the pits again. And he seems to have potentially under-fueled here by a lap or so. That is actually going to be heartbreaking him, I assume. But unfortunately, that is going to be what's happening. He is going into the pits. Is it going to be a splash and dash? He hasn't came off the ramps just yet. You only need 3 or so litres. He has came off the ramp, so yeah, he did just under fuel very so slightly. That's going to be very unfortunate for him, as he loses close to 4 positions, nearly 5 positions, 6, 7 positions now there for him, going down to P24 as his hard work from P17. 57 seconds left to go, as we can see now. David going through Ascari for the final, well, the penultimate time, depending if he decides to wait. Now going through the back straight before the Parabolica. Going through now the Parabolica. 30 seconds left to go. Is he going to try and stop, or is he going to do another lap? I'm not sure what he's going to do. He is going to do another lap here. So we do now see the crew chief saying we are now on for the final lap of this race. We stay on board with the leader as we do a full lap on board with him to see if he's actually still able to do a hot lap. It's going to be 50 laps finishing this race now. Through just a second chicane. Now he sees Jean in front of him. So as we do see Taron Chabel once again trying to put some pressure there on Ross Spencer for position. Now going through the Ascari, going onto the back straight before Parabolica. So as we do see Craig Hill doing the same thing with what is going to be Tommy Griffiths, potentially going down into P10 here. Tommy Griffiths not having the best end of races so far. Can he defend it going into Parabolica? At the moment, he does have the inside line. It's the same machinery here, so it's all going to be down to the driver and the setup here. And it does seem Tommy Griffiths is still able to withstand P10 at the moment. And Craig Hill is going to have to re-attempt this at any other given time, as we also do see Taron getting past Ross Cook now going down into turn 1. Is there going to be retaliation here from Ross Cook? It does seem he's trying to retaliate, but it's not going to work for him just yet. Time going up into P7 with 1 lap remaining for these drivers.
The leader has finished the race.
You hear now, the leader has finished the race. David Granes going into pole position for round 5 here for 90 minutes of Monza. Very well done for the Fiat Nothing Moto team. Then followed by Poulin, who is so far behind there in P2. Eloy Poulin in the Team IRS. Ferrari 296, lovely looking livery, may I add. Going through Parabolica to take P2 here for the 90 minutes of Monza. Then followed them by Kenneth Reyes coming across the line as well. So I was followed by Radek Swix going through Parabolica. So we go back on board with Craig Hill and Tommy Griffiths, who are both still going side by side here, going through Ascari. Getting the inside line, Tommy Griffiths going to have the better advantage now, having the inside line for both the start and the exit of of Ascari, sorry, and he is able to again keep P9 as he's flashing his lights there. Not sure why he's doing that, but now going through the final corner of Parabolica for the last time. This is going to be Craig Hill having to try and attempt to do something to get this move done, but at the moment it doesn't seem it's going to work for him. Tommy Griffiths then going to be able to take P8 here for round 5 of 90 minutes of Monza, followed then by Craig Hill taking P9. And then we also see there it's going to be as well Giorgio taking P10, as well as Bassari coming across the line as well in the AF course, Ferrari 296. As well as the final driver across the line, as well as Jean Weiser, who is currently leading the championship for the intermediate A, sorry, as he does it. Oh, that was actually, I respect that so highly. That was an amazing 360 to the bottom, but I'm actually going to get a replay of that. He completely unsells the car there, just yanks the steering to the right, does a perfect 360 there. That is actually the sickest thing I've seen all day. I'm actually gonna have to, I congratulate him for that. That was actually the sickest thing I think I've ever seen for it. That was a great exit there for him, but not getting carried away with that. That is going to be the end of the race here for tonight. It's Daniel Ciambaglia, who still hasn't actually finished the race. Actually, it seems he has retired. I'm not sure when he retired, but he retired on the last lap almost. There, Daniel Ciambaglia, that's unfortunately there for him. But that is going to be the end of the race here for tonight. Definitely one of the more interesting races for a 90-minute races. Now being into the mid-season of Season 11 here of the Coach Save Delta GT3 Rookies season, as we go on to next Donington for the 60-minute sprint race. Then one of my favourite tracks, followed then by Cotta, the American greatness track. That it's again quite a Marmite track. If you're not Brace, you won't get that abbreviation. So either you love that track or you hate it. Again, followed by Laguna Seca, which isn't my favourite track. I don't really like it. Another American track. And then the final with the 90 minutes of Knowledge for Life that we will see in June the 8th, I believe. It's going to be it now for today. I have been your commentator, Ace, also known as Alex Newman. I will see you next race, which is going to be Donington next weekend for the 16th of May. But for then, unless I see you on Saturday for the 100% of FF1, I will see you guys later. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night. Bye bye.